to our beloved priests, Father Jesper John and Father Dondon, who I really looked up to when I was still a high school student. Something tingali nito share with you to begin to at least aron ma-excite inyong mga mata. Sa estudyante pa ko, I will go home for lunch break and then dugay pa man ang first period sa hapon, I'll watch the mass sa CCTN. And these two personalities, mo'y kanunay ginaabangan nako o sa ako ginikanan. Kisan sa kay Misa ron, kuya. And then I somehow can relate with nahitabo ni Zechariah ba? Nakamisan ako, uban ani nila, murag na Zechariah feeling, nga di ko kaharong. Brothers and sisters, we are now on our 4th day of the Misa di Gallio, and for our reflection this morning, I have here at least 2 parts. And for the first part, you may start closing your eyes and just be careful not nga di mo muhagok. And in the part 2, I will try to wake you up. But if you wish, you can still extend closing your eyes. Part 1. When we hear the word Annunciation, we probably immediately think of the Annunciation of the angel Gabriel to the Blessed Virgin Mary, the first joyful mystery. And this morning's gospel gives us another Annunciation, the Annunciation of the angel Gabriel, and this time to Zechariah. The angel announces to Zechariah that his wife Elizabeth is to bear a son whose name is John. In Hebrew, it means God is gracious. God is truly gracious to Zechariah and his wife with this announcement. And that's the good news for today. Your prayer has been heard. Kung makadungog taana ng mga linya ba, or kita mismo, ato nang masulti sa atong kaugalingon, gidungog sa Dios ang akong pag-ampo. It's a good news. Unlike the case of the Blessed Virgin Mary, Zechariah's faith is not quite adequate for this extraordinary and surprising announcement. That good news somehow, what can you feel? It is somehow extraordinary because both Zechariah and his wife are advanced in years. No? God far exceeds Zechariah's expectations, and Zechariah couldn't quite take it. He could not hear it. Your prayer has been heard, and yet Zechariah has this lack of capacity hearing this good news, this announcement from the angel. And look at what's the result. His inability to hear leads to inability to speak. So this, for the part 1 lesson, our inadequate listening can often lead to inadequate speaking. Hearing or listening comes before speaking, and it is more important than speaking. And you might have heard a lot of priests saying, look at the face, look at your face. 2 ears, 1 mouth. So more of listening. Zechariah is not sufficiently open to God's generous way, and this lack of openness, of listening to God's ways, undermined his ability to communicate with others. Challenge ka ini. Kay kita baya tanan, we are called to be evangelizers. And to be evangelizers, we are called to tell the good news. But how can we tell the good news and speak about it if we haven't heard it well? Have we truly spent time listening to the good news? Part 2. Nowadays, we are used to, or at least we have a lot of exposure to hearing bad news. For part 2, my theme here is that what affects us of not listening well and unable to identify right away what's good and what is bad news. Because there's a lot of exposure, hearing and reading bad news. Most of our news programs is bad news, and it will excite us somehow. And what's wrong with the world always seems more newsworthy than what is right with it. And when we do hear good news, we can sometimes become a bit skeptical of it. We doubt it. We wonder if it is really true. We start to look for the downside of it. And today's gospel reading, the angel Gabriel proclaimed good news to Zechariah that his wife Elizabeth would finally have a son who will be great in the sight of the Lord, who will be filled with the Holy Spirit, and who will bring many people of Israel back to the Lord their God. However, Zechariah couldn't believe this good news. It was too good to be true. He couldn't allow himself to savor this good news and to rejoice in it, as the angel invited him to do. His failure to hear resulted in his inability to speak. He was silenced and had no power to speak. Our failure to listen always impacts negatively on what we say and how we say it. Like Zechariah, we can be slow to hear good news of God's loving initiative towards us. We might think that this may be good news for others only, not true for me. God did not send his son for me. I am so unworthy. I cannot take it. And yet, this message, the message of salvation, is for all of us. For you, and for me. Brothers and sisters, it's still 4th day, and I hope we still spend our lives learning, relearning how to listen to this good news, to this gospel, absorbing it so that it may shape who we are, it may shape what we do, and it may truly shape what we say and how we say it. Your prayer has been heard. May it truly be a good news for all of us today. Mata na mo? Brothers and sisters, we ask the intercession of our Blessed Mother, who listens well to the word of the Lord.